Friends, enemies, what's its, who's its, Smurfs, Care Bears? I don't care who you are. Tonight we're talking about this. The Sigma 16mm f1.4 DCD and 66. This lens, it's amazing. So let's roll that intro. It's the Sigma 16mm f1.4. That was a good one. Good one. Anyway, this lens just got announced from Sigma a couple of months ago. Again, 16 millimeters only for crop sensor cameras. So there's gonna be a 24 millimeter equivalent on Sony and a 32 millimeter equivalent on Panasonic stuff. This is the Sony mount. I'm shooting with the Sony. And I was going to buy this lens in a couple of vlogs ago, if you saw that. It was sold out. Texted the person who had bought it because I found that out, borrowed it from them, and I've now got it for a few days. But yesterday, I spent the day shooting an entire vlog with this. I didn't really talk about it in there, but you will have noticed that, dang, was that background blurry at points. So it gave me a good chance to try it out on the vlogging style videos, and then I also shot a cinematic sequence in slow motion 1080, and then I also shot a photo with it this morning, which turned out pretty awesome as well. So got to use it in a few different varieties. It's not like a crazy in-depth thing, but I wanted to know just a few things with this lens. One, could the camera focus in a reasonable way to still keep your eyes in focus in like vlog style settings while letting the background be super blurry? Because I was worried that it would potentially miss the eyes or be moving in and out of focus as it tried to figure it out. We learned very quickly in the vlog yesterday it does a really, really good job on the focusing. There are some situations though, you'd notice in this coffee sequence here that I'll throw up here, is that the lens is hunting a little bit in the low light when it's not quite sure where to focus. And that's, I think, where the eye tracking or face tracking on at least the Sony system helps it know where to focus. But in some of those situations, it didn't really know. And there's like this little hunt as it figures out where to focus. But overall, the A6500 was a champ with the focus on this thing. The other thing that I was concerned about is right now I'm filming on the Sigma 18 to 35 millimeter, which is a wild and crazy and amazing lens unless you need the audio out of the camera, because the focus noise on this lens is so loud it makes basically all of your clips unusable unless you're using manual focus or you don't need the audio. So use it for cinematic B-roll. It's king of that. But this, I was worried, are we gonna have the same kind of grounding, loud noise? And if you have an external mic, I never once heard any noise at all grinding from this motor or any motor noise at all. Another test I saw, if you're just using the internal mic, it can pick that up because the actual vibrations of the lens focusing get transmitted through the body of the camera into the microphone. But just use an external mic and you're going to be completely fine and no motor noise at all with this. Motor noise, like a V8 or vroom, vroom, or F1 car. So motor noise, good. Other things about it is f1.4 is more than 4 times the amount of, let me do the calculate. f4.28 is twice as much. Over 8 times as much light comes through this lens than my normal 10 to 18 millimeter vlogging lens. Like f4, or if you use the kit lens at f3.5, this is 8 times as much light. Like, that is crazy. 1, 2, 3, over 3 stops of light. Anyway, so when I actually ran into problems with this lens was even in this office with none of my LED lights turned on, just my like regular ceiling lights, there were times where the image was almost overexposed, like it was too bright, and I would have had to turn up my shutter speed, which, you know, is fine to do, but following the typical rules of photography, videography, you're gonna wanna get an ND filter, neutral density filter, so you can put on here, preferably a variable one, because you're gonna need to crank that light right down. But what's amazing about it is in dark situations, the camera is not working hard like at all because there's just so much light coming in through this lens and you get those beautiful blurry backgrounds. But even like outside in this cinematic sequence, let's roll the cinematic sequence. You're gonna see like the lens looks beautiful, but there were times where I was shooting the outside parts that even at 1/4000th of a second, 100 ISO, it was still being overexposed. And I was like pulling some of those chunks down afterwards to try and make sure they weren't too bright. And I couldn't even pull them down as much as I wanted to. So this lens is so bright. When it comes to vlogging, like, did I love the lens? It's a good question. It's different. I love that super wide angle perspective that something like the 10 to 18 millimeter gives me. At 10 millimeters on a crop sensor, like 15 millimeters, there's just so much more in frame, and it's so less just about like locked off on your face. Or there's shots where I wanted to like set up the camera on the end of the desk and see my whole computer in frame and what's going on in the desk. 10 to 18 millimeter, no problem. But with this, you're zoomed in a lot more. So it just changes the dynamic a little bit. I'd say it's a trade-off, is you're giving up, that ultra wide angle perspective, but what you're gaining is those super blurry backgrounds, which is different and interesting and maybe something we don't normally get to see, because ultra wide angle fast lenses are usually so large and so heavy. But what's nice about this is the size of it is like, here's a big coffee cup. It's smaller than a big coffee cup, but it's not tiny. Let me find a... Here we've got, kit lens versus a Sigma, and you can see like, yeah, obviously not even close in that regard. This is the 50 millimeter, which is maybe a, fairly common lens. So, it's a little chunk bigger than that. And then this is the 10 to 18 millimeter that I would normally be rocking. And, size to size, they're about that. It's definitely got some heft to it because they've got good glass in here and it's so bright and so wide open. So what do I think I'm gonna do when it comes to vlogging is I'm probably not gonna buy it, because I have this 10 to 18 millimeter. I like the perspective of the ultra wide angle. And then for the cinematic slow motion-y kind of style shots, I'm probably gonna use the 18 to 35 that I have. But if you don't have something like the 18 to 35, like a nice like wide angle, super shallow lens, this makes a really compelling argument for being like the one lens that you use for everything. Use it for vlogging. You put it on, you can shoot some really nice cinematic style footage. Maybe you throw a 50 millimeter in there that's not too much, and like, there you go. You've got ultra wide angle fast, you've got more zoomed in fast, and that's all you end up needing. And it's frankly like these two together are about the same price, or maybe even a little bit cheaper than the 18 to 35 and the MC11 converter that you need. So I think that's maybe a compelling argument for this lens. Here's a photo I took with it. Ta-da! Took that this morning. The sunrise was quite wild. I like the way that it looks. Obviously the photo's a little bit edited, but lens is perfectly sharp for anything that I need to do. I'm not, blowing it up on 1,000-foot buildings or things. It seems to be a great lens, like most all Sigma lenses. It is a contemporary, not an art series, but some people are saying it's closer to an art series. You can look at like super nerdy, detailed reviews with the full frame croppy crops, and if you want to figure that out, you go do that. But as far as a practical lens, do I recommend this lens? Absolutely, I recommend this lens. Here in Canada, it's like $570. I think in the States, it'll probably be under $500. And it's a 16 millimeter f1.4. You can do so much with it. So hope that was helpful for you. If you got any comments or questions or thoughts or concerns about my, well-being or what's going on in my head, drop them in the comments below. Be kind to one another, everybody, as my followers normally are, but you never know. Anyway, I'm Justin. Thanks for watching.